There is a weight that sits in the center of the chest that is different from grief and different from fear. You know exactly what I am talking about. It is the feeling of knowing, really knowing, that your life was supposed to look different by now, that something was supposed to have moved, that you were supposed to have moved, and you have not. Not because you stopped believing, not because you gave up, but because something kept whispering, later, when you are more ready, when things settle, when it feels safer. I want to speak directly to you today, not to a crowd, to you. Because I believe you did not find this message. I believe this message found you. And before I go any further, I want to tell you 3 things you will receive if you stay until the end. You will understand what God's final warning actually means, and it is not what most people think. You will receive a practical tool to know exactly where you are standing in this divine season. And there is something I will share near the end of this video that completely reframes the warning itself, something that I believe is the most important shift any chosen one in this season can receive. If those things matter to you, stay with me. Now, let me tell you what I know about you. I know you have been carrying something heavy, not just the weight of your circumstances, but something underneath the circumstances, something bigger. It is the gap. The gap between who you are right now and who you know you were created to be. And that gap has been widening for longer than you want to admit. Not because you are failing, not because God has moved on, but because there is a conversation that has been happening between you and the divine, a long conversation, full of nudges and quiet urgency and signals you recognized and then turned away from, and at some point, without fully meaning to, you started choosing later. And then, later became another month, and another season, and another year. I want to name what has been happening, because when we name a thing, it loses its power to hide from us. There are 3 patterns I have seen in the lives of chosen ones who stand at the edge of their calling and do not cross over. The first pattern sounds like this: when I am more prepared, when I have more resources, when I understand it better, when I feel more confident. The voice is reasonable. It sounds like wisdom. But preparation that never ends is not wisdom. It is avoidance wearing the language of wisdom. I call this pattern readiness waiting, and it is the most sophisticated delay of all, because it is always doing something productive. The second pattern sounds like this: when someone confirms it, when a leader speaks it over me, when my circumstances line up clearly enough that I can no longer deny it. But here is the truth. God already gave you permission. The permission is embedded in the calling itself. Waiting for someone else to repeat it back to you is a way of stalling without admitting you are stalling. That is permission waiting. The third pattern is the deepest one. It sounds like when it feels less risky, when I know it will work, when I can be sure I will not fall. But callings do not come with guarantees. They come with a direction and a God who walks with you into the unknown. That is safety waiting, and it is the one that holds the most gifted people in place the longest. None of these are sin. I want to be careful here. They are human. They are the posture of someone who cares deeply about getting it right. But they all carry a cost, and we are going to talk about that cost. Because here is the question most people in this space never ask directly: why is God sending this warning now? Why this urgency? Why this specific season? There is something most people miss entirely, and I want to take you there. Most people hear the words God's final warning, and they picture a courtroom, a judge, a sentence being handed down to someone who has run out of chances. That is not what this is. I want to tell you about a man named Joseph. He was thrown into a pit by his own brothers, sold into slavery, imprisoned for years, for something he did not do. From the outside, every single one of those moments looked like abandonment, like silence, like God having turned away. But here is what was actually happening. Every one of those moments was positioning. The pit, the prison, the years of waiting, they were not punishment, they were placement. Preparation so precisely calibrated, so specific to what was coming, that it could not have been accidental. And the urgency of what came next, the moment a nation's survival hung in the balance, and Joseph was the only man alive who could answer it. That urgency was perfectly timed to a readiness that could only have been built through everything he suffered. God does not send warnings to people he has written off. He sends warnings to people whose destiny is still live, still real, still worth every ounce of what he is pouring into this moment. There is a word in ancient Hebrew. The word is aha. It means to linger, to hesitate at a threshold when it is time to cross. The scripture uses that word at the moment when angels appear to Lot at the gates of a city about to fall. The text says, Lot lingered. And when he lingered, the angels did not lecture him. They did not condemn him. They grabbed his hand. That is what a warning from God looks like. Not a gavel, a hand reaching out and saying, not this way, come this way. I am not done with you. I am not finished with what I started in you, but you need to move now. And I want to stop and ask you something directly right now. When was the last time you actually believed, not as a concept, not as something you hold in theory, but genuinely in your gut, that something life-changing was still possible for you? If something in your spirit just stirred when I asked that, type the words "still possible" in the comments. Let that be your first declaration that the door has not closed. Because what I hear the Father saying over chosen ones in this exact season is this: I am not angry. I was never angry. What you have been reading as distance was never withdrawal, it was pursuit. Every signal you received, every stirring in the quiet moments, every restlessness that would not let you be comfortable where you were, that was my hand on your arm. That was me saying, not this, not here, not yet settled, because I have something specific for you, and I have not stopped moving toward it. So if the warning is not about his anger, then what exactly is this plan he is fighting so hard to protect? Because I think we have been far too vague about this for too long. God has a plan for your life. We say that so often, it loses its edges. It becomes background noise, something comforting we repeat without really feeling the weight of it. But the plan is not vague. It has your name on it. It has your particular gift set woven into it. And it has your pain, the specific shape of everything you have been through, built into the architecture of what you are being called to do. Think about Esther. She was placed in a specific palace with access to a specific king at a specific moment in history. And the instruction that came to her was not general. It was, for such a time as this, not any time, this window, this convergence that will not arrange itself again. Here is what makes this urgent. There are people whose breakthrough is on the other side of your obedience, not yours alone, theirs. There are real, specific, breathing human lives connected to what you carry that cannot receive what they need from anyone else. Because no one else walked where you walked. No one else carries the exact combination of your gift and your story and your particular wound that became wisdom. That is not random. That is not accident. That is not coincidence. And there is a force that understands this better than you currently do. It has been working quietly, strategically, patiently to keep you in the delay. Not through dramatic confrontation, through exhaustion, through the slow accumulation of reasons to wait one more season, through convincing you that the stirring in your spirit is arrogance, that the people who need you will find someone else. He cannot stop what God has ordained, but he can distract you long enough that the window begins to narrow, and your authority over that strategy is greater than that strategy is over you. What felt like personal weakness was actually strategic interference. What looked like spiritual stalling was actually an enemy who understood exactly how important your assignment is. You were not losing, you were being targeted, and those are not the same thing. Now, I want to come back in part 2 to something I have not fully explained yet. Earlier I mentioned that scientists studying people who experience breakthrough discovered something about the brain, a specific God-given frequency that modern life systematically suppresses, and what actually happens when it gets reactivated. I will come back to that, because it gives you something practical. But first, I need to tell you about the window. Seasons have thresholds. Not because God gives up, but because the plan He designed for you is connected to people and moments and converging circumstances that cannot be indefinitely deferred. There is a version of Joseph's story where he stays too long in the prison, where the moment arrives and he is not ready, not because God stopped moving, but because Joseph stopped cooperating with the movement. And that is not a story about judgment, it is a story about cost. The cost is not just yours. Remember the people on the other side of your obedience. Every season you defer, they go without what only you carry. The door they need opened stays closed a little longer. There is a version of your life where this is the message that changed everything. The one you look back on years from now and say, that was the moment I stopped waiting. That was the day I took the first step. And there is a version where this becomes one more message you almost acted on. I do not know which one you are choosing, but I know which one God is fighting for. In part 2, I am going to show you something that reframes this entire warning. The thing at the very heart of what God is saying, the thing underneath the urgency, underneath the timeline, underneath all of it, is not what you think it is. It is something far more extraordinary than urgency. And once you hear it, the way you receive this warning will never be the same. Type, I am ready, if your spirit is with me. Part 2 continues right now. If you are here for part 2, something in you chose to stay. And I do not take that lightly. In part 1, we talked about the nature of God's warning, not anger, but urgency, rooted in love. We talked about the specificity of the plan, your name on it, your pain built into it, your particular gift as the only key to a door no one else can open. And we talked about the people on the other side of your yes, the ones waiting for what only you carry. Now I want to take you deeper, because there is something I have not said yet, and it is the most important thing in this entire message. But first, there is a difference between a continuation season and a threshold season, and I want you to be able to tell the difference clearly. A continuation season is where you keep building at the pace you have been building. Those seasons are necessary, they are good, but they do not carry the same urgency. A threshold season is different. It is a moment of convergence where what has been prepared in you meets what is finally ready in the world around you. And threshold seasons have a specific signature. There are signs that, when you learn to read them, tell you clearly, this is not just another season. This is the crossing. The first sign is restlessness that does not respond to distraction. In a regular season, a distraction settles the unsettled feeling. You watch something, you fill the evening, the feeling passes. But in a threshold season, the restlessness is deeper than distraction can reach. You can fill every moment of the day and still feel it running underneath everything, like a signal that refuses to be turned off, no matter what you do. The second sign is what I call the convergence of confirmation. The same message begins arriving from multiple, completely unconnected directions. A word in a conversation you were not trying to have. A passage that falls open to the exact page. Something a stranger says that echoes something you heard 3 days ago from a completely different source. This is not coincidence. This is the signal being amplified because the window is narrowing and God is leaving less and less room for you to say you did not hear. The third sign is that the calling feels closer and more specific, now not vaguer. In seasons of spiritual drift, callings feel distant and abstract. But in a threshold season, the direction sharpens. You start to know, not just feel, but know what the next step actually looks like. It has a shape. It has a direction. That clarity did not come from you. It was placed there. And the fourth sign is the sense that the delay is costing something real, not guilt cost. a quiet awareness that time moving in this direction is moving away from something that matters. That awareness is not condemnation. That is wisdom speaking with the specific urgency of a father who sees the timeline you cannot. If you have been feeling the restlessness that does not quiet down, no matter what you try, if you have been noticing the same message arriving from directions that have no logical connection to each other, if you have been sensing a cost you cannot fully name, but cannot stop feeling underneath everything that is not anxiety, that is God marking you for a threshold crossing. I want you to do something right now. Think about how many of those 4 signs have been describing your last 30 days. Not your last year, your last 30 days. And type that number in the comments. Not for me, for you. Because naming it makes it real. And making it real is the first act of a chosen one who has decided to stop waiting. You have been in this message for more than 20 minutes now. And if you are still here, I want to say something to you directly. Most people scrolled past this. They felt the weight of the title and moved on. You did not do that. You stayed. You have been here through all of it, through the difficult parts, through the parts that asked you to look at things you have been avoiding. That is not casual. That is not just watching a video. That is the behavior of someone whose spirit knows something is happening and will not let them leave before they hear all of it. That is not coincidence. That is information about who you are and what season you are in. Right now, all across the world, chosen ones are standing at this exact threshold, feeling this exact weight, asking the same question you are asking right now. Am I reading this correctly? Is this really for me? Is it really still possible? I want to answer that question now, and I need you to receive what I am about to say slowly, because everything I have shared in this message has been building toward this single moment. The most important thing I have to say about God's final warning is not about the warning itself. It is about what the warning reveals, about how God sees you. Here is the truth. God does not send warnings to people he has given up on. He does not invest this kind of urgency into a life he has abandoned. He does not pursue, with this intensity, someone he has decided to release. When God sends a final warning, he is not backing away from you. He is moving toward you with everything he has. The enemy wants you to read this warning as judgment, as the sound of a door that is closing, as evidence that the story went wrong somewhere and this is the last page. God means it as rescue. He means it as a father who sees the road ahead, who sees what you cannot yet see from where you are standing, and who loves you too fiercely to let you walk into it without at least one more direct signal. The enemy says, you have failed. God says, I have chosen. The enemy says, it is too late. God says, not while I am still sending messages. The enemy says, look at how far you have drifted. God says, look at how far I have followed. A final warning is not the last resort of a God who is running low on patience. It is the most direct love language of a father who will not stop fighting for your future. The urgency you have been feeling is not the shadow of condemnation closing in. It is the heat of his pursuit. It is the sound of someone who loves you more than you have yet been willing to fully accept, refusing, absolutely refusing, to let you settle for a life smaller than the one he designed you for. Notice what is happening in your chest right now. Something has shifted. The weight that felt like dread at the beginning of this message, feel how it is different now, not heavier, clearer, like the difference between being sentenced and being summoned. Notice how your breathing has changed, deeper, slower, like something that was held tight is beginning to release. And notice what is happening in the deepest part of you, not your mind, not your emotions, but the thing that runs underneath both of them. The thing that recognized this message before your mind finished processing the title. That is your spirit hearing the voice of the one who made you and has not stopped speaking your name. And what I hear the Father saying right now, directly, specifically to every chosen one receiving this in this moment, is this: I did not bring you this far to lose you to delay. Every season you spent in the wilderness was not wasted. I was building in you exactly what the next chapter requires. The plan is still possible. The window is still open. But I need you to move. Not when the fear disappears, not when the conditions cooperate. Now, because I am with you. I have always been with you, and I will be with you every step of the crossing. This is not the end of your story. This is the beginning of its most important chapter. Now, I want to give you something practical to hold alongside everything we have talked about, because you deserve more than inspiration. You deserve a path forward. I mentioned in part 1 that scientists studying people who experience spiritual breakthrough discovered something specific about the brain. I want to come back to that now because what they found connects directly to the delay we have been talking about and gives you something you can actually do about it. Every human being is born with a specific brainwave that researchers call gamma. It governs intuition. It governs creative breakthrough thinking. It governs the ability to make clear, aligned decisions from a place of inner knowing rather than fear. Scientists at MIT, Princeton, and Harvard have all studied it extensively. And in children, it is extraordinarily active. It is the reason children learn so quickly, imagine so freely, move toward new things without the weight of hesitation. Chosen ones, specifically, are born with gamma that is stronger than average. It is the reason you noticed things others missed. The reason you felt things more deeply. The reason the world felt vivid and full of meaning when you were young, like everything had a layer of significance underneath its surface. But here is what happens starting around the age of 7. Modern life begins to suppress it. The structure of education systems, the pace and pressure of adult life, the accumulation of stress responses, all of it progressively shuts gamma down. Scientists call this the decline effect. And that gap you feel between who you were and who you are now, between the version of yourself that seemed to access something effortlessly and the version that cannot quite reach it, that gap is, in part, a gamma gap. This is not spiritual failure. This is a neurological reality affecting some of the most gifted people alive, and it is reversible. Let me tell you about someone. A teacher, a woman who spent 10 years pouring herself into helping other people grow, while feeling that something in her own life had gone completely frozen. She described her mind as running at 30% of its capacity, as if she knew there was more in her, somewhere, but could not access the part that held it. 3 weeks after she began a specific 7-minute daily practice designed to reactivate gamma, something changed. The decisions she had been avoiding for an entire year began resolving in a single morning. Clarity that had been out of reach arrived without effort. She said, "I do not know how to explain what happened, but something unlocked. I know what some of you are thinking right now. You have tried things before, sound practices, meditation, different approaches to spiritual activation, and nothing moved the way you hoped. I want to be honest with you about why. Most of those approaches work at the surface level. They address symptoms. What a neuroscientist named Dr. Robert Lake spent 34 years developing does something categorically different. It works directly on the neural frequency using a technology called brain entrainment to bring your brain waves into gamma alignment from the outside in. Not through belief, not through months of habit building, not through anything that requires sustained effort, through 7 minutes of listening with headphones. That is it. To access this kind of neural recalibration through traditional clinical biofeedback therapy costs $300 per session. Home equipment runs up to $7,000. And sustained meditation practice that actually produces gamma alignment requires months, sometimes years of consistency that most people simply cannot maintain through the demands of real life. Dr. Lake compressed 34 years of research into a 7-minute digital audio track called The Genius Song. The original price for this was $49. but because his intention from the beginning was to make this technology available to the people who actually need it, not only the ones who can easily afford it. He has made it available for $39, specifically through resources like this one. That price does not exist on Amazon. It does not exist anywhere else. For $39, you receive the track itself. You receive 4 bonuses, an audio track specifically designed for children's focus and cognitive development. The original book that the film, The Secret, drew its ideas from, the one with actual depth on financial and personal transformation, a guided visualization covering 4 areas of life, and a printed infographic of the 5 most important daily habits for building the life you are being called into. You receive a 100% money-back guarantee with no conditions and no time limit on when you can request it. You risk nothing. You try it. If nothing shifts, you receive every dollar back without question. That is not a sales promise. That is confidence in what this does. One thing I want to say directly before I tell you where to find it. There are websites using the name Genius Song that are not the real thing. I want you to be careful. Those sites do not have the actual brain entrainment technology embedded in their audio. They are standard recordings without the frequency work, and they will not produce what you are looking for. The only version with the complete technology, all 4 bonuses, and the guarantee is through the link I have placed in the description and in the pinned comment of this video. Do not search for it on YouTube, Spotify, or Amazon. The link I have placed is the only safe source. If something in you is ready to stop waiting for your mind to catch up to your calling, that link is there. I will let you decide. Type "I am ready" in the comments if that part of the message connected with something real in you. And whether or not that is something you choose, the call on your life does not change. The window is still open. And what I have to say in these final moments is the most sacred part of everything I have shared with you today. You did not have to be here for all of this. You could have left at the beginning, you could have left in the middle when it got heavy, but you are here. And I want to honor that, because staying was not passive. Staying was a choice. And every choice you make in the direction of your calling is a small act of obedience that God sees and that He responds to. I want to speak over you now. Not as a teacher, not as someone who has everything figured out, but as someone who carried this message and believes with everything in me that it was meant to reach you specifically, today, in this exact moment of your life. You are not the person who missed their window. You are the person who is standing at it right now, receiving one of the most direct signals the Father has sent you in a long time. And I want to name you in this season. You are the threshold crosser. That is who you are right now. Not the one who is still waiting for conditions to be perfect. Not the one who is still afraid you may still be afraid, and that is allowed. But the one who heard the warning, understood it for what it truly was, not judgment, not abandonment, but fierce and relentless pursuit, and who is choosing to rise anyway. So I release you now from the readiness waiting, from the permission waiting, from the safety waiting. You are allowed to move without having all the answers. You are allowed to trust a God who calls without needing the circumstances to cooperate first. You are allowed to outgrow the version of yourself that needed everything to feel safe before it would take a step. That version of you served its purpose. You do not need it anymore. May every delay that felt like punishment be redeemed as preparation, and may you one day see exactly what was being built in you during the silence. May every door that closed redirect you with such precision that you will look back and understand why it had to close, and be grateful that it did. May every season of wilderness you endured reveal itself as the specific kind of quiet that was growing something in you that could not be rushed. And may the people who have been waiting on the other side of your yes begin to feel something shift today, as if something that was stuck in the spirit is finally beginning to move. And what I hear the Father saying in this moment, directly to every chosen one who has received this message and is standing now at the edge of the crossing, is this: I did not pursue you across this many seasons to watch you stop here. Every sign you saw, every stirring you felt, every message that found you when you were not looking, that was me. That was always me. Closer than you realized, more patient than you deserved, and more committed to your future than you have yet been to your own. You are not too late. You have not gone too far. The window is open, and I am standing in it, and all I am asking of you is one step. Just the first one. Take the step. I will take care of everything you cannot yet see from where you are standing. Go. Not because the fear is gone. The fear may not be gone yet, and that is all right. Go anyway. Not because you are certain. Certainty is not a requirement. Obedience is. Go because you are chosen. Go because the plan is real, and it has always had your name on it. Go because the people who need what you carry have been waiting long enough. You have been waiting for a sign. Consider this one received.